Previously on Anything Goes.
Fuck you just comes out of you.
Right.
Like, yeah, kiss my ass. This is all for me now.
Yeah, of course.
I'm on borrowed time.
Yep.
No, I wanted to ask you because you were. I was really excited because the first time that I ever did a road like a road gig or like a club gig where we were on the road together, it was me, you, and Billy Cowan when there was a club up in Sudbury.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and after one of the shows, we went back to your place, not your hotel room.
They buy me a place everywhere I go.
Yeah.
A cabin with a floor you can spit on.
Part of the and a spittable floor. And if not, fuck it, I'm out of there.
Nice to see you again, Mr. Wilmot. Here are your keys. So
Andre Arudis chop you some wood for the fireplace.
Oh, see, I'd pay to see that.
Yeah.
We got and so we got some like submarine sandwiches, and then we went back to your hotel room. And we were watching a bit of the porn awards, and it was hosted by Bobby Slayton.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And I want to ask, is that ever one of your goals? Because
No.
there's a good list of comics that have done. I know Jim Norton's hosted the porn awards.
Oh, no,
Bobby
no.
Otto
Slayton,
and George.
Bill Hicks.
My favorite is still Otto and George.
Hosted
You know
the porn
what
awards?
happened to him recently, right?
No, what?
Oh, you don't know this?
No.
Oh man, I thought I left you a message about this. He went feel well. They rushed him to the hospital, and they induced a coma, and he was in Newfoundland for like 3 weeks.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh, Newfie coma.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah,
Are
sorry
you
to
sure
bring
it's
that
him?
on.
No, you sure
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
him and not the dummy?
No. Yeah.
That's happened before.
I'm sure.
And if he's not operating,
Yeah.
it looks dead.
Yes.
It really does.
That's a coma.
That was, yeah.
No, he's one of my favorites too. I mean,
Oh,
when
yeah.
I did the Nasty Show in 05, I watched all 15 shows. The only person I watched was Otto and
It
George.
makes he kills
all
me from the
15
minute he
times.
goes on stage.
Yes.
And what always made me laugh was Dice Clay stealing his bits, but not realizing the funny thing was him being able to turn to the dummy
Of
at any
course.
moment and go, "Hey, there's ladies here."
Yeah.
But that's what destroys me.
Yeah.
I first time I met him, we did the old Club Soda, the first Nasty Show. Then we had like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
Imagine that, eh?
Sure.
How relaxing that used to be.
Sure.
What are they? 20 Nasty shows now?
Yeah,
Just
something
about
like
because
that,
it's
yeah.
the show that everyone wants to see.
It's
the
the
one
cash
sells-
cow.
It's this
Yeah.
one that sells out immediately. Yeah.
That's how you pay for all the other comics.
I want the one story that I did want to tell about when we were in Sudbury is that we started watching the porn awards, and they showed clips of the movies that were being nominated. And then they had Bobby Slayton was hosting, and he throws the comedy category, and they had a Tonight Show parody. Was one of the pornos, and so the guy playing the Johnny Carson, and then the girl who's the guest on the couch, she starts blowing him, and then the guy that was playing Ed McMahon looks at him and goes, "You are erect, sir."
Oh boy.
Which I thought that was funny, and then they showed a little bit more of the.
That's fantastic.
They showed.
can't
I
remember.
love that. I thought that was great writing. They showed that. They showed a little bit more of the scene, and then you and I are eating our subs, and then at one point you look over at me while they're showing this porno scene, and you just go, "You're gonna have to leave now."
That sounds
And I was
about
like,
right.
I understand.
sounds
I
about-
understand what's going on. And then the next morning, when we went to go and get something to eat at like the mall.
There
'cause
is
it
a
was
bit more baritone in my voice. The next time you do my voice,
Well,
don't just make it so crisp. It's there's something down there.
And I think you might have actually ordered a pizza that night too, because I think I went to your room the next morning and there
Jerk off at a pizza? That sounds like me.
but we had subs and the pizza, and then when I went to your room the next morning, there was like a big shoe print in the middle of the pizza box, and then there were some cigarette butts out in the pizza. Like you got angry at your food at some point. We're just like, I'm going to show you pizza and put some cigarettes out.
That's what I do to food. It's not out of anger. It's just out of waste. Sure.
And now, let's get to a new exciting show.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready for some laughs? Are you?
Don't touch that dial. It was molested and it brings back horrible memories. This is Anything Goes with Darren Frost,
How the fuck am I funny?
Dave Martin,
What have we got here? A fucking comedian.
and Kathleen McGee.
And I'll execute every motherfucking last one of you!
Can you dig it?
What did you do in your 20s? What was the average week in Dave Martin in their 20s?
Well, I started stand-up comedy in my late 20s.
Okay, so 24, 23, 24.
Just sort of out partying, I suppose. Just
Right.
getting shit-faced with my friends. But I remember being over at a guy's house, and this is would have been 1989, and we were all partying at his house, and then two of the guys that were there were going down to Yuck Yucks at Yonge and Eglinton. And this is I mean, I've said this before, but I was sort of I remember sort of growing up and just my friends were the funniest people I knew. The idea of going to a comedy club to be entertained by comedians was always just sort of like, why do I want to go do that? I mean...
And why pay for it when I've got my friends?
Yeah, I mean, I'm at my friend's house. We're all shooting the shit. We're all drinking beer and smoking pot, and we're all laughing together. When my friend Brent, and I actually vaguely remember him saying, yeah, Ron Beaudry's on. Or I remember him saying, the name Ron Beaudry, which was...
Right.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things. So...
We're just talking about how social media for 20s and 30s now kind of fills their life. But back when we were in our 20s or 30s, there wasn't social media, obviously. I was a comic from almost doing the road from my early 20s. So I didn't have that standard kind of 20s not being on the road kind of existence. And you started in your early 20s as well, right, Kathleen?
Yeah, I was 24.
Right.
But
yeah.
I guess what I'm saying...
MySpace and all that, social media, was around in my 20s. Social media started when I was, 16 with, MySpace.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have, that, gee, I wonder, it was all MySpace was everything. Even when I first started comedy, everything was MySpace.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I only got into social media just at the crossover between MySpace and Facebook sort of climbed over top of MySpace.
People are going back to MySpace, and I tried to open my old account, and I can't get into it for some reason. But there's this kind of growing kind of subculture of people going back to MySpace to try it out because they don't like all the data mining and other problems that are with Facebook.
MySpace was better because you could design your own page and you could put your own music on, and the only thing that kind of was ridiculous about MySpace, I guess it's the same thing that happens with following and unfollowing, was remember you had a top 8?
Yeah.
So you would have your top 8 friends, and then there'd always be drama if you didn't have, or you took someone off your top 8, and well, what did I do? You take it off your top 8?
I don't know. I think only girls did stuff like that.
Okay, it's a girl thing. It's a girl thing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it just weirds me out. It doesn't really weird me out, but I'm always just wondering, what did they do in their 20s when you see people in their early 50s that are so involved in Facebook? But I guess I also have to remind myself that Facebook has also been around since 2007 or 8 or so.
Yeah.
2007, I think, is when I joined.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was around a little bit before that in colleges and universities, but I think it became open to the world around 2007 or 8. But I always found that MySpace seemed like too much of a marketing tool, and at Facebook in the beginning seemed more of a legit, let's keep in touch with our friends, and then gradually...
Well, yeah, that's how it started out. Yeah, MySpace was very, Dane Cook, right? It
was for bands.
That was the model of Dane Cook, and bands used MySpace to propel their career forward because no one else was taking advantage of it. Then they saw the rewards of it, and that's why MySpace quickly became that. And yeah, a lot of people went to Facebook because I just want to, talk to people I went to high school with, or keep my collection of people smaller, because MySpace started getting out of control. And of course, Facebook becomes the monster.
Right.
And then it was Instagram where people went to go get famous, and now it's TikTok. That's where everyone goes to get famous. That's why I'm kind of tired of social media. I'm tired of everybody knowing what I'm always doing. I had somebody ask me if I was pregnant because I didn't post some selfies, and I'm like, what? And they're like, well, are you just trying to hide it? I'm like, no, I just don't feel like posting every day on Instagram. I just don't. I was getting comments that I didn't want to get. I was getting messages that I didn't want to get. And it was just kind of why am I doing this? This isn't making me feel better. This isn't making me feel happy. And when it does make you feel good, it's like for 10 seconds, and then you're just like, okay, that's over. Now I got to do it all over again. So
I just wish that just like the in New York, like banning cell phones, not allowed to have cell phones out in comedy clubs, and in fact taking it away and then giving it back to you, I thought was one of the greatest things when we were in New York City and went to see a show. I couldn't check my phone once. I don't normally anyways, but just not being around people constantly doing it. And I'm not even a performer in that situation. I'm just an audience member, let alone a performer, and seeing the glow on people's faces. I thought that was great. And when things return, I really hope that a lot of comedy clubs take that path.
I've been putting my phone on airplane mode on Sundays just because I'm like, I don't want people to be able to get a hold of me whenever they feel like it. Or I don't want to have to feel obligated to answer every
Sabbath, yeah.
Somehow,
yeah, it's a Sabbath.
Somehow, like Kathleen, I think that if you actually did get pregnant, you would have those exact same feelings of I'm not fulfilled. This isn't making me happy. All the feelings that you had about Instagram.
I thought this was going to make my life complete, but I'm more miserable than ever.
Yeah, why is the baby getting more attention than me? Look how long I've been around. Baby doesn't have a podcast.
I already get that with my dogs. My dogs are more famous than me. Like, my dogs get recognized in public.
Yeah.
I know.
All right.
I've thought that question before when you see like a really beautiful woman walking a dog and everyone sort of looks at the dog. There must be some sort of hey, well, what about me? I used to get all the looks. And now it's this stupid thing that I pick up as shit. So
well, that reminds me of when I did something for beer.com like 20 years ago. They had all these like model girls holding beer bottles and like bikinis and stuff, and it was all sexy TNA bullshit. And so I came out, I had a sparkly shirt, a wig, smeared lipstick, I danced, I had underwear on that I shouldn't. They're like 4-year-olds underwear, and they're way too tight, and it's really horrible. The main reason I'm telling this story is people had to vote, and there was like a top 10 hottest girls on beer.com. And at one point I got to number 6. And I'm like, man, imagine if you were number 7. You would just hate yourself. It's like, what? This is hotter than me?
I know.
The only way that I could justify that and be like, oh, people are doing it because they think it's funny.
Of course.
But that would be sort of a blow to the ego.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Hey, guys, this is John B. Duff here, sitting with these 3 fuck faces on XM Radio. Anything goes.
Oh, faces made for fucking.
Or did I have to say Sirius there?
This
wasn't serious.
It's fine.
No, that was good. That was good. The word.
All right, great.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I will say this. With this off time that I've had, I fell down so many YouTube wells of like different videos and stuff. And I found this one story that in a 4-year period, 3 babies were left on the doorstep of this one apartment building. And they did the DNA test, and all 3 were related to each other over a 4-year period.
What?
Yeah, and one baby, this is the thing that blew me away, why I'm bringing it up. One baby in the note, it said, can you please take me to a fire station? Because in some states in America still, if it's in the first 7 days of a baby's born, you can take a baby and leave it at a fire station, and you will not be charged.
You won't be charged for like abandoning a child or anything?
Yes.
Oh,
doesn't that sound fucked up?
It does sound fucked up, but you know what else is? Like, there's so many people out in the world that want to adopt. Like, I have friends that are trying to adopt right now, and the actual, like, process is, it has to be hard, right? It shouldn't, but it's like any fucking idiot can have an actual child on their own. But people that truly, truly want kids, that can't have kids, have to jump through so many hoops just to get these kids that nobody wants anyways. So it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like buying a gun, You really gotta you really want to have a gun, well, in Canada anyways, to jump through all those hoops to get one. But yeah, leaving it on the doorstep of a fire department?
Yeah.
What about a hospital? I mean, why?
That's what I thought. Wouldn't it be more sense for a hospital? Because then the fire station is just going to take the baby to the fucking hospital anyways. I mean, let's cut out the middleman here. Come on, this is.
Or I mean, when did firefighters have this big sort of? Yeah, when did they get that reputation of being like?
I know. It's like, are you supposed to put a baby in a bassinet and push it in water, and that's okay? Like, isn't that the?
And have a big gray bear find it.
Yeah,
and raise it with the wolf.
Is that what you're normally supposed to do with babies?
I thought you were just supposed to leave them on a roller coaster and hopefully, I don't know, leave it at a movie theater, or something.
I had a joke when I first started about like how my brother used to always tell me that I was adopted, and I would just say, well, at least they wanted me, because I always felt like kids that were adopted were truly, truly wanted, because it is pretty hard to adopt a kid. Like, it's not easy.
Well, and also most of the people that have who went through the adoption process first tried all the other ways to try to get pregnant, which isn't covered by a lot of medical insurance, which means out of pocket. Like, I know couples that have spent $60,000-$70,000 and still couldn't have a baby, and then still have to jump through all these hoops to try to get adoption and that going. So it's not like they only just started there for most of them, which makes it even shittier how much they have to jump through. And look, I know how hard it is to get a dog in this fucking pandemic, how hard it was. I can't even imagine getting a baby and then having to get all the outfits for it.
I feel so bad.
How many outfits do you have for your dog? Sorry.
A lot of outfits.
I feel so bad, though, because I really have never had that, like, I've had, like, moments where I'm like, oh, it'd be kind of cool to have a kid, but I've never had that, like, I have to have a kid. If I don't have a kid, I'm not, like, I don't know what that feels like. So I know, like, there are women out there that really, really want to have children and can't have them for some reason or another. I don't know what that feeling feels like, because I don't think I can have kids. I've never attempted to, but I certainly have never had.
You've never been pregnant before?
No,
I've
never
like a miscarriage
pregnant.
or anything, right?
No, okay. I've never had an accident, and I was not always the safest person. So
right,
I just don't even. I don't even think I can have kids, but
we won't. Okay, well, we won't bring.
But it doesn't make me sad, because I'm just like, well, I'll go get another dog. Like, I love.
Right.
I get my maternal thing from having animals, and I know a lot of people, and that really annoys me when people are like, "Oh, well, you're not really a parent, you're not really a mother." But I'm like, "Well, yeah, I am. Like, I'm. These things will die if I'm not helping them."
Right. Well,
like, it's not the same as having a kid, but it is.
Well,
if
no,
you
of
are.
course not. It's a responsibility. There's no doubt about it. I now have a dog. I see it. It's a responsibility. Is it more of a responsibility than people who don't have dogs realize? Yes, it is. It is more of a responsibility. They'll never understand. But I'll tell you something. It's also like having kids. You don't really understand the responsibility of having a kid until you have a kid. And they're both responsibilities, and they're both not easy. Do I really get upset when people call their animals their kids? No, I don't. What do I care? It's not a hill I want to die on. Is it exactly the same? In my opinion, no. But is it a huge responsibility? Absolutely.
Well,
and I would never say that being a dog parent is harder than being a human parent. That's why I don't want to be a human parent, because I know I've seen my friends go through. I see how tired they are. I see the things they have to go through. And I'm just like, I'm too selfish. I would be so frustrated and angry about stuff. And everyone's like, well, you never know until you actually have one. But I'm like, I just know deep down in my heart that I'm a selfish person, and I wouldn't be the best mom. I just know.
Did you have to carry around an egg in high school? Remember that whole bullshit when you had to have an egg and all that?
I never had to do that either. Once I hit about 45, I kind of accepted the fact, and I accepted the fact that I wasn't going to be a parent, but I also did go to sperm clinics and donated, and they told me.
You donated?
Well,
you're gonna be little Dave Martin's running around?
Well, the thing was that I went to these clinics, and they told me that I didn't have a very high count. Now, that
was just their nice way of saying we don't want your sperm.
Yeah, we don't want your sperm.
It's high enough, but it's dumb. It's too dumb.
No. Yeah. They're just sitting around waiting for the next Avengers movie to come out and wondering where a beer store was my sperm. But no, they also say you don't have a high count. I mean, I tell a joke about it. I don't have a high count, but then they were like, well, if you have some friends that would like to donate, and if they tell us that you sent them here, then you'll get a portion of the money that we make from their sperm.
Oh,
so it was like
pyramid
a big
scheme.
There was a big jizz pyramid scheme. That's what I called
Just
it.
an MLM for sperm.
Yeah, it was like the Amway of cum. But
That's so funny. How much money do you get for if somebody chooses your sperm?
well, I never got to find out.
I've never heard you do that bit, Dave.
Oh, okay. No, I have a few
You should
times,
keep
but,
doing that bit. It's very funny.
Well,
It is funny.
but this was like you went in there and you went into a little room and they had this is back before really DVDs too. So it's like they had like a VHS player and they had magazines laid out and
Did they have
Other
plexiglass?
men masturbated right where you are.
yeah, no, you didn't do it in the waiting room with the other guys, but
Did they have plexiglass like comedy clubs in the pandemic? So in case...
no, they did not. You were your own little private room, and and I was able to give them a sample each time I went, but they always told me that they were low, and that's fine, whatever. I don't, but also I think too, if I'm 45, just the
getting the sample in the cup is not easy. You know that, Dave. You did it twice.
Getting the sample in the cup.
Wait, how is that not easy? You just put it at the end, and how is that difficult?
Well, if there's pre and it gets everywhere, you don't want to scrape it off the ground because then it has like
I can't believe I'm more of a cum expert than you guys. There's no way that's difficult.
First of all, most times that I come, I'm not standing over a cup looking at this cup trying to come into it. I don't treat my wife's vagina like I don't treat her vagina like a cup, okay? I'm sorry. I look at my wife's vagina more than just a cup, so it's hard for me, I guess.
Well,
that's the beauty of having a penis is you can aim easily.
Well, yeah, you can aim, but still, it's like you're not always ready for when it comes out, and especially, and then you have to get it into a cup, and then it's not, and it's.
And normally when I do it, I'm on my back, so I've got to hold the cup weird. It's like, and then you got gravity issues, and it's hard.
And I don't think you're allowed to use any lube either.
You're not. You're not.
Yeah, because you don't want the lube to get mixed in with your cum, and then you have like, hey,
then your count's even lower.
Yeah, because there's no cum, there's no sperm in your Vaseline.
Men are so hard done by. You poor things.
Well, it's hard to do.
The trials and tribulations.
You walk a mile in my cum, and then come and talk to me.
You jerk off a mile with my cock. Let's see how far you get.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I just, by the time 45 came around, I was just like, but the idea of like having a 10-year-old at 55,
a
20-year-old at 65, that just is not, and you can still go out and do a lot of shit for kids.
Oh,
they just won't be yours. But I mean, I'm all like, I'm happy.
As long as there's not a court order, you can do whatever you want.
Well, yeah. yeah. But,
I mean, that was one of the things where the three of us were just for last 1 year. And that's when I found out that Mark Breslin was having a child. And I remember we were at the, the Andy Kindler address.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a big fan of it that year. I'm not really a big fan of it in general. But anyways, I remember walking out to the lobby and Mark was standing there with Zoe from JFL. And I said, oh, Mark, congratulations, you're having a baby. But I said to him point blank, I go, Mark, have you done the math? I'm like, you're, close to 60 now. I know what it's like to have a 5-year-old, and I was in my 30s and 40s and I could barely handle it. You're going to be like 65, 70. And he just kind of gave me this look of like, maybe he didn't do the math or I'm like raining on his parade. And then I'm like, oh, but I'm sure you'll be fine, Mark. You'll be fine, But there's a lot of reality to what you're saying. Like at 45, having that energy, because I don't have the same energy as I did at 21 or 25.
No.
It's just not possible.
Well, I spend like half an hour with my friends' kids. One of my friends has 3 kids. They all talk at the same time, and I'm exhausted after I hang out with them for half an hour. And that's when I'm like, I could not. Maybe I could have 1 kid. I could be an only child parent, but like,
right.
Having that 3 kids is a lot. You have 3 kids, and it's just like I'm exhausted. It's just being around it.
Yeah, I know, and I hate saying this too, but I know it's like and maybe it's just because I only hear it from sometimes like Darren and a lot of younger parents that are also comics, but it always just but I hear the complaining side about parenting more than anything, you know, and I know
because the nice stories aren't funny. So of course on stage you're only going to hear about the people complaining, the comics complaining. No one goes, "My kid's amazing," and people laugh.
Right. Yeah.
You know, my kid's an idiot and is going to be this, and they laugh. That's just the natural thing for comedy. But you only hear the bad side.
I used to always say when people would refer to their pets as kids, and I would always say, well, they're not the exact same thing. And one way you know is that there's not a special victims unit for your dog. You know, there's not. You know, it's sort of like if you go to the dog, if you say to someone, "Oh, my dog died," rarely does someone go, "Oh my God, how?" People are just like, "Oh, okay, that's too bad." And I used to always be like, you know, you have to show up. Do you know how many dogs you have to go through for someone to start noticing at the dog park? Of just like, hey, you have a different dog every day. Oh yeah, they always die on me. I don't know what's going on, but it's just sort of like, I mean, yeah, they're not the same, but it's like if you lose your dog, you just have to put a sign up. If you lose your kid, you have to call the police.
Sorry.
Let's change that topic.
Yeah.
Oh man.
They're pissed. They don't like what you're saying.
Yeah, Dave.
Get down. Stop. See?
Stop or you're going to be on a poster. Stop or you'll be on a poster in the park.
Have you seen this man? But
there should be. You know what? So many people have gotten dogs. I wouldn't be surprised if there is going to be a special victims unit in the police for dogs.
I talked about this on our other podcast, and actually, Sean Burton, you know, he's a comic from Newfoundland.
Yeah.
So LaComber and I always talk about businesses we need to start so we don't have to do comedy anymore. And one of my ideas is a pet funeral home, because people spend so much money on their animals, and more people are choosing to have animals than kids. Like there are I don't know, I'm sure they have it in Toronto, but in Edmonton, there's like literal new communities that have homes where they build like special dog runs, or they have like a dog house under the stairs. Like people spend money on dogs and pets. And I think that like a pet funeral home, I'm sure they already exist, but I think that you can make money. And then Sean Burton messaged me. He's like, "I'm doing business school, and could I borrow that idea?" I'm like, yeah, but if it makes money, I want to cut.
Well, I know my girlfriend has a Great Dane, which is like, it is huge. Literally about almost 4 feet off the ground, its back, and it looks like. Do you remember that movie, The Return to Oz, the Wheelers?
Yeah. Oh,
that had those things on there. It was just the very scary creatures. But that's what this dog is, and it's 11 months old, and it's just this massive beast, and it's funny. We've gone to dog parks. And there is this community of people at dog parks that are like, "Oh, that guy, and he has this dog, and these dogs don't get along with each other." So there are family sort of, definitely parallels that people have with this dog. But dog
parks are filled with crazy people. Like when I go to the dog park, I like to just kind of like walk. I don't like to interact too much. But people love to talk at dog parks. My mom, she would go to the dog park every day at 2:00, and she had a group of friends that were all her age, and they would sit around, and the dogs would sit around, and they would just sit and bitch about the world, and you know, but like dog parks are huge now. Like more and more, like in Edmonton, they're popping up, and they have special areas where they can do tricks in them. They're all fenced in. Like it used to be just this big open field, but now they're like turning into this huge thing. Like I've also thought about an indoor dog park, because in Edmonton it gets so cold here in the winter you can't even go outside. Right. But it's someone tried that and it didn't last. But
another if you go to a dog park, unlike a children's playground, you can stare at someone's dog for a long time, and you can
peg. Oh my God,
you can't do that with a kid. So that's maybe that's another advantage. I don't know, but I'm not totally.
I've been around dogs and I've been around kids, and I enjoy being around dogs more. I don't hate kids.
Yeah,
I like being around them, but I don't want them.
Because you know what? Strangers' kids aren't that cute. Strangers' dogs are fucking adorable.
Adorable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I've been around kids, and I'm like, okay, that was fun, but I'm not, at the end of it, I'm never like, oh, I want one of those. You know, I also know that the possibilities for things to go wrong with a kid are so much higher than with a dog. You know.
Well, also, I can get rid of my dog anytime I want.
Yeah.
Can't get
You
rid of
will
my
want
kid
to
anytime
because
I
you will
want.
look at
No,
them.
I love my dog, but there's always that idea that if life changes and I have to get rid of it, I can just give the dog to someone who loves it, like a friend of mine I can trust. I can't do that with my oldest kid.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
yeah. That's yeah. That would be yeah.
I mean, legally I can't.
No.
Legally.
Hi, I'm Noel Fielding, and I'm performing in Toronto to the Torontonians, a rare breed of people with ram's legs who emerge from forests at dawn. You're listening to Anything Goes on XM Radio. Enjoy!
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Now, Darren, you have Disney Plus, correct?
Yes.
Now, I was just able this past weekend to get attached to someone else's Disney Plus account.
Why don't you just pay for yourself, Dave?
Why don't I not? You know.
It's only 70. It's only $80 a year.
Yeah, I know Disney's not going to miss it. Okay, it's like my friend had like 2.
Oh, that argument.
No, it's not
okay.
even Disney missing.
It's not like I'm downloading it. But Disney offers 5 accounts on your subscription.
They just want you to steal it.
So first of all, that's a big misconception. I'm not going to be the pro. Hey, Disney. Oh, number one, the 5 accounts is for family members in the same residence. That's what the 5 accounts are supposed to be for.
Well,
and they're actually cracking down on it as we speak. Especially in Netflix in Canada, they're now saying if you're sharing an account and they know that it's not the same address, it will not work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're popping up. It's saying we know you're doing this. You should be paying for an account. Free month kind of thing. Yes.
Well, what about my parents? Can I give them my Netflix account?
No.
Okay. Well,
Mom and Dad are gonna have to shell out.
Yeah.
Well, that is probably the best gift that I've ever given them. My copies of my Netflix and Prime accounts. But the point that I was
ahead. Your point was that Disney. Yeah.
Anyway.
The point I was getting was I went back and I looked at a bunch of old movies that I remember liking as a kid.
Sure.
And
like Escape from Witch Mountain and Freaky Friday.
Pete's Dragon.
Yep.
Which, oh my God, I almost want to give. Next time I see my dad, I'm going to give him a big hug for taking me to so many shitty,
terrible
Disney movies.
Terrible.
And now I understand why they put these sort of adult punchlines into kids' movies now.
Right.
Is because the kids that grew up on Disney are now having families and they want to watch movies and get a bit of a laugh for themselves. So they'll put these sort of adult, jokes in there. And
if you knew the shit that you watched as like an 8 to 12-year-old kid, and you sat down and watched it right now, nostalgia is great for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Then it's a fucking dumpster fire. Like I remember I bought a 3 DVD set of Sid and Marty Krofft's Best Of. And which is HR Puffin stuff, Lidsville, all this shit from the early or late 70s, early 80s. Because I'm like, oh man, I'm going to relive childhood. I watched 3 minutes of it and I never watched it again. I paid $50 for this fucking thing. And I'm like, this is just the same. It's so much repeating of story and backdrops. It's just, some of it was, I understand it was a simpler, kinder time, but some of it was really bad.
Well, I've been rewatching, I've been watching, I'd never watched it before, Hill Street Blues.
Right.
Because it's on Disney Plus. And it's good, but it's like, there's a lot of offensive stuff that would never fly nowadays. And also, like, when some of this dramatic scenes, like when people get shot, it like, they get shot and it goes slow motion and they're just like, ah! Like, it is so over the top. The overacting is incredible, and it was like groundbreaking for that time.
Yeah.
But like, the gang members, it's just so it's fun to watch. It's the misogyny. Like, there's this one character that calls a woman like your tuna partner. Like, not even kidding you. Like, just and this was on television.
I call my wife tuna partner all the time. What's wrong? Am I stuck in the 80s? Am I stuck in the 80s? I guess I am.
Stuck in the 80s.
But I also was, because there was like the new sort of the cancel culture with Pepe Le Pew, and everybody's worried about. I guess they're worried about. I think we sometimes give kids way too much credit for absorbing stuff and then interpreting it. Because like I saw Pepe Le Pew as just this like, oh wow, Pepe Le Pew wants this cat that he thinks is a skunk, but the cat doesn't want Pepe Le Pew. I never thought, I mean,
that he was trying to rape her.
I never thought he's trying to rape her. I didn't even know what sex was, let alone this horny French skunk is trying to rape this cat. I mean, I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know what rape was. So it's not like I made those connections. And I just think a lot of kids is just going to just watch it and move on. And it's just, I think we just give kids way too much credit, but also we don't realize how much kids move on to the next thing so quickly. You know, and it's just, it's,
but, there's also, what about Speedy Gonzalez? Because I understand what you're saying about Pepe Le Pew. He was just a French guy who wouldn't take no for an answer. He didn't get handsy, he just kept on trying. But then you've got the other argument of Speedy Gonzalez, which really is just all Mexicans are slow and lazy, and there's that stereotype. And even within their own culture, half of them are glad for the representation and we're happy that they were on screen, and half aren't. So, I mean, Pepe Le Pew was canceled out of the Space Jam 2, but Speedy Gonzalez isn't. In fact, Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy, is doing the voice, I think.
Well, but I mean, Pepe Le Pew, he's really fast. He's not a lazy mouse. He's
Speedy Gonzalez.
So Speedy Gonzalez is fast, right? He's not lazy. If first of all, if Mexicans being lazy is a stereotype, that is easily one of the most wrong stereotypes you could ever imagine. They're like a remarkably hardworking.
We know that now because we're a certain age,
right?
And we've seen that stereotype being used towards them.
Yeah,
even Trump still echoed those same sentiments.
Well,
but also like not just to be devil's advocate, cartoons are an over exaggeration of something. Right. They're not true humans. They use stereotypes. Like look at the Flintstones, like this big oaf of a man and his wife. Like I don't know. All of this going back and looking at the past cartoons, I'm sure there was stuff in it that's inappropriate. The show I'm on, Hill Street Blues, stuff super inappropriate, but it's what happened. It's how our culture was, and it's not being made anymore. Like, don't make it anymore. But like, I don't know. It's just like this weird.
I mean, that's the exact argument that they're making, though. They're not saying cancel Pepe Le Pew or Speedy Gonzalez. What they're saying is, from this moment forward, we don't want to see it. And I think the company has the right to make whatever choice they want. If they don't want to put it in the cartoon, who cares? The same thing as the Dr. Seuss books. It's not a hill I want to die on. I don't care. They're low-selling books.
Yeah.
The company's deciding not to make them. To me, that's not cancel culture. It isn't.
I just don't like when people say you should destroy that stuff. Like, no, that's book burning.
Right. And I mean,
you shouldn't be destroying those kinds of things. Like Dave says, put those statues of awful people in museums and explain who they are.
I agree.
Like don't destroy our past and history, because a lot of the stuff in our past and history is gross and awful. But if we just keep like getting rid of it, we're never gonna remember what it was, and we just might go back to doing it all over again.
Well, and also
you need to like learn from history.
Right. I mean, and there's a very rare. I mean, that's a really small number of kids that I think even watching those cartoons back then and even and now, I suppose like that most kids realize that those are cartoons. Like I never took an anvil and tried to drop it on someone's head. I mean,
I can give you an example though of how a cartoon does. Peter Pan, the way they represent Native Americans. When I worked at Fort Edmonton Park, the Native women daily had children going up to them and going like this, and that's super offensive. It is super, and they would tell them, they would say, that's not what we do. That's Disney that does that. Like, I don't know how they would explain it, but yeah, that is an example of kids. You're not dropping an anvil on someone, but you are going around pretending to be an Indian brave and being really offensive about it to people who actually are Native. Like, that's the thing, is that they go up to actual Native people and do it to them, and yeah, it's bad.
Right, well, I mean, that's where parents are supposed to come in and go,
Yeah.
this is a
Yes.
teachable moment. That's a
Yes.
cartoon from 19. But I mean, as far as like the Pepe Le Pew being in Space Jam, it was like the scene that they cut out was a Casablanca reference where, do you know this, Darren? Of like,
Yes.
Pepe Le Pew was supposed to be the bartender. LeBron James says to Pepe Le Pew, you shouldn't do that to women. Pepe Le Pew is trying to come on to this woman that's sitting at the bar. And it's sort of like, so you're taking out a scene, and probably the scene just didn't fit the movie properly.
Right.
So they just got rid of it. But now people want to make it into like we're canceling Pepe Le Pew. Well, I mean, but if there was a genuinely teachable moment between LeBron James and Pepe Le Pew, you'd think that would be a good reason to have it in there. And
well, I think that's the only reason they wrote that in that movie, was to have that teachable moment and to recorrect that kind of behavior and the new way that we do things now compared to like the 50s and 60s. But a lot of these decisions are made not for the reasons that everyone thinks they are. Timing, animation, it's not cheap. Like, you want to figure it out really early, what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of. And there's so many hoops you got to jump through. You got to record the vocals. You got to do a test drawing, then a final drawing, then it all ADR. There's so many levels before. And it's just not an easy, like 5 minutes before they release the film, we cut something.
right. I mean, I mean, apparently that scene hadn't even been animated yet, and they got rid of it. But I think it's more. You should really watch out more for what your kids are watching between like 12 and 16. I mean,
100%.
It's like, I mean, kids watch wrestling all the time, and yeah, you do practice wrestling moves on other kids, and and occasionally there are accidents that happen when you put a kid's head between your legs and you give them a pile driver in the family room or something like that. And so there have been stories about that happening, but
well, you know what's interesting? It's because that we're talking about this. So yesterday was Sunday, and the family watched the movie on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's I want to make sure I get his name right. Taki Watiti.
I don't know.
He wrote Thor Ragnarok. He's a big director.
Oh, okay.
So he did Jojo Rabbit. He wrote and directed Jojo Rabbit. So the movie before Jojo Rabbit is called The Hunt for the Winter People, or Wilder People. The Hunt for the Wilder People with Sam O'Neill. It's a fucking great movie. It really is great. You should check it out. But the reason I bring this up is, as a family, we watched it. My youngest is 11, and my 13-year-old, my oldest, wasn't interested. We watched it. And then afterwards, we watched Jojo Rabbit. And I let my 11-year-old watch Jojo Rabbit. And I looked into it, and they all said it's got a few moments, but, it might be some teachable moments. We watched it. And then during dinner tonight, I brought up some of the reviews about Jojo Rabbit with my 11-year-old there, talking about one of the negatives to Jojo Rabbit is that they present the Nazis as almost like funny, clownish kind of buffoons. And that normalizes them and makes what they do not as important of, kind of thing. And we had to talk about that. And I had to explain it to him. He didn't understand. But I explained it to him, and he did understand it after I explained it to him. And it was a teachable moment. The problem is, I don't think everyone watches these movies with their kids and then has that teachable moment. But that's on the parent, not society.
Yeah, well, I mean, parents... I mean, I think as soon as TV was a thing, you were sort of like, oh, we can let the TV babysit our kids, and we can... I mean, that's how it was with me.
Me too.
If I had a babysitter, the babysitter just let me watch whatever I wanted on TV, and I had to go to bed at a certain time. How did you explain the Jojo Rabbit Nazis are being made to look like lovable buffoons? I mean, they weren't really. I mean, that's a pretty adult movie. I mean, as far as like the comedy and the irony that goes into it, how did you explain it?
Well, first of all, we had to explain the idea that the Hitler character in the movie was not actually Hitler. It was an imagination of him, of what the kid felt was Hitler. Right. So the way he acted wasn't really how Hitler acted. So therefore, it wasn't really Hitler. So what they were portraying was something different, which isn't an easy concept, but he seemed to understand that. Then I also talked about how everyone else was made to seem like an idiot that was a Nazi, and that also, even though it's buffoonery, it still makes them portrayed in a negative light. And at the end of the movie, I mean, he fucking kicks Hitler out the window and and saves the girl that's Jewish. So I mean, there was a lot there to talk about and decompress, but we got through it.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you seen?
Sorry, Kathleen, go.
Have you watched like the new South Parks? There's they have a COVID-19 special, and then they have a vaccination special. And in front of the vaccination special, they have their little disclaimer in front of every. So they did a new one, and it says this program includes negative depictions and/or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and will still be wrong in the future. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create more inclusive future together, like the Muppets. This show should not be watched by anyone. I just saw that. I didn't know what inspired it, but it's actually inspired by Disney.
Yes.
Because Disney actually put that out because so many of their movies have come under fire for they have some bad movies where they're showing things that they shouldn't be showing.
Of course.
Or, racial stuff and things like that. Because Disney, I'll just pull it up. Sorry.
Well, there's the whole Disney ties to Nazi Germany and all kinds of other things that have been conspiracy theories for decades.
Well, it's not
but the Muppet Show.
It's not a conspiracy theory. You're right. Yeah.
The Muppet Show
he was an anti-Semite, but
Yeah.
So the South Park thing was because the Muppet Show put out this content advisory saying this program includes negative depictions and/or mistreatment of people or cultures. These stereotypes were wrong then and are wrong now. Rather than remove this content, we want to acknowledge its harmful impact, learn from it, and spark conversation to create more inclusive future together. That's what Disney wrote. And this Disney is committed to creating stories with inspirational and aspirational themes that reflect the rich diversity of the human experience around the globe. But it's kind of funny because they're just like, I don't know, it's like South Park is basically saying, like, you guys, you shouldn't be watching. This isn't a show to be inspired by. This stuff isn't anything to be inspired by. This is commentary on the world right now. Like, you shouldn't be watching this. Like, if you watch South Park, there's offensive stuff in it, but it's actually, it's only offensive because it's true.
Right. Well, it's that old argument when you get into the, it's the old argument that you can get into it with people, and then at a certain point you have to sort of step back and say, listen, do you want the truth or do you want what you want to hear?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I mean, that's one of the things that I hate when they dig up all this shit from the past. It's like there was a sketch, like Billy Crystal was allowed to do Sammy Davis Jr. and Muhammad Ali. And Jimmy Fallon did an impression of Chris Rock where he's in a lot of black face makeup. And I mean, people can call, but people are going after Jimmy, will go after Jimmy Fallon. But at the end of the day, it's like you should go after the people who the standards and practices of these networks, because everything has to go through them. So maybe it wasn't accepted at the time, but it was okay enough to put on TV, or they didn't think that they would lose any money or lose sponsors if they had Jimmy Fallon pretending to be Chris Rock. It's like things at the time, it's like you should know who to get angry at. I mean, Jimmy Fallon can say, I'm sorry for it, but I mean, NBC, they let it on the air. And at the end of the day, that's who's in charge. So it's just funny. It's just one thing is if you get Disney Plus, you also get all the access to all the old Muppet shows, and I don't know if the Muppet Show had an HR department, but man, Miss Piggy would have been taken to task for all the sexual harassment that she did with fucking Kermit the Frog on that show.
Yeah, yes, of course.
And then
I was watching the Muppet Show, and I think it's like the second episode. The person that's hosted her, I think her name is Connie Francis.
Oh yeah, Connie Francis, yes.
Okay, so she played some like teenage 1950s teenage girl, right?
Right.
Don't watch that. That episode is painful to watch because she's clearly in her late 30s, maybe early 40s, and they dress her up like she's 15, and they make her do her 15-year-old song. I don't think she sings it. I think she actually lip syncs to it. And it literally was painful to watch. I got an idea for a movie out of it. Like, it was like so sad. It was this poor woman could not escape this character that she played when she was 15 years old. And so she's still playing her when she's in her 40s. And I was like, people that get stuck with this one character, I really feel for them now. Like the Screeches, the Dynamites, like the people that get stuck. I feel bad for them.
Well, did you? And also on the Disney Plus one, they have the old Muppet Show, but then they have the Muppet Show that came out in like 2011.
Is that the Muppets Tonight?
Or it's called the Muppets, but it's basically it's basically a version of The Office. It's done in that same style.
Yeah.
And that show is so funny. There are so many, like Kermit the Frog. At one point, I forget what the conversation is, but at one point, Kermit the Frog goes, "Yeah, well, a couple of years. Well, I remember when I was a kid, I licked a cousin that had me tripped out for a while." And then you're just like, "What? You just didn't?" And then there's so many pot jokes in it and like weird sex jokes, but that show is like kids could watch it. They're not going to get half the jokes in it.
No.
But like, would your kids even watch an episode of the Muppet Show from the 70s, Darren?
No.
We are also calling out shows that kids don't even give a shit about.
Right.
Yeah, most of those things are on Disney for us, for nostalgia purposes, for people who grew up on it to go back and watch and be like, I can't believe I thought that was good.
Well, it's funny. Kevin Fox said something, a comedian in Vancouver, made I don't know if it was a joke, but at least a statement that, he said his daughter and all her friends are of this age group where they're supposed to care about all these things they're canceling, and they don't give a fuck about it. They don't care about the Pepe Le Pew. They don't care about Dr. Zeus. They don't care about any of this stuff that everyone else is raging about. They just don't care. And it's just old people like us or older that are raising red flags and going crazy about shit, but the younger people don't care. Like, my kids don't care. They don't even know. They didn't even watch Looney Tunes. I tried to. I bought one of the packs and we sat down. They just weren't into it. You can't force a fucking square peg through a round hole. They're either going to watch it or not. And to be honest, most of my kids that's just an old show. I'm not interested. They want to find their own thing, their new thing now.
Right.
Grown-ups are scared to lose their jobs. That's the thing. Grown-ups are scared to lose their jobs, so they're doing everything they can to make sure that no one's going to come in and be like, fire these people for letting this happen, because it happens all the time. That's the thing, is like so many people nowadays lose their jobs because of things that happened in the past that everybody's trying to cover their ass now.
Well, and I've always thought the majority of political correctness is a lot of time it's old people that just can't accept the world that is changing around them, and they want things to stay the same. It's just... Now,
I don't know what's going on with Bill Burr, because I've kind of been out of it for about a week, but I mean, there's something going on with people wanting to cancel Bill Burr right now. Did he do something?
He was on the Grammys, and he was presenting Best Latin Pop award, and he said, I wonder how many feminists are out there thinking, ooh, who's this cisgender white male doing all this stuff for the Latin people? And that was all he really said. So
he also mispronounced the person who won's name.
But he
got pissed about that. But this happened before the Grammys. There was some kind of thing that happened, and I don't know.
They're always trying to cancel Bill Burr, but he's too good at talking himself out of it.
Well, I know that he defended the girl from the Mandalorian and defended her right to make the statements that she made, and thought it was ridiculous that she got fired. And I mean, he's on the show, so that's not the smartest thing to do when it comes to Disney. We talked about that in past weeks, but so I wondered if it was just still some of that. But okay.
Well, I
think Bill Burr is just really, really good at explaining his point of view and his stance, where people can't be like, well, that's wrong. He can explain it. It was like how Patrice O'Neill could do that. He could have the worst opinion and explain why he felt that way, and people would understand. And I think that needs to happen more, but people aren't good at that. Not everyone is good at explaining why they feel that way.
Well, I mean, I think, Bill was he was calling himself out before it actually happened.
Right.
About like, I could just imagine how all the
fans of course
think about this.
I thought that was a funny line. Yeah, when I read it for the Grammys thing. Yeah.
But also, it's sort of like he was on a portion of the Grammys that I don't think was televised, and they're handing out all these and so he was sort of like, I bought a suit for this. I'm losing so much money for this, and there was a couple other jokes that he made, but a lot of this cancel culture stuff is preemptive. Cover your ass marketing that but a lot of companies are assuming that people are going to be outraged about something before it actually happens.
Right.
And it's sort of like my philosophy in life is don't freak out until you need to freak out.
Right.
And a lot of these companies are freaking out ahead of time.
But you know what? And not to be devil's advocate with that, but I think the companies look at it this way: if there's two people going for a gig, and one person did something shitty and one person didn't, and they both can do the job, I'm choosing the person that didn't do it and wasn't shitty.
Yeah, people don't want drama, but also when they do have drama, their name gets out there. Like it's just
right. I mean, Gina Carano will be okay, and Bill Burr, of course, will be okay.
Of course.
But I mean, it's just as much as people are looking out for someone to try to cancel, there are also people that are jumping on board and defending someone who is about to be canceled, but they haven't really been canceled yet. Right. It's like there were people that were trying to be like, oh man, they're going to cancel Bill Burr before there was even an outrage about it. Mm-hmm. You're almost sort of like, well, let's see if there's an outrage. Then we can have a discussion and then maybe we'll fire you or something but it's just like, I don't even know if there was that much of an uproar about the Gina Carano, World War II post before Disney even fired her. So it's like...
I mean, there was, because I knew about it and I was reading some things and there was a rumbling, but there was a petition supposedly with a lot of people that signed it, but,
But everything blows over so fast nowadays.
Of course. It's only been 2 weeks and it already feels like it's like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Because everybody's stuck at home and just fucking waiting for something else to talk about, just like we are.